Hi friends, and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to go over the books that I read in May and the books that I did not finish off my TBR from May. There were 3 books I didn't get to that were all part of my library card game, and I read the other 7 books. I had quite the ambitious TBR this month with 10 books. Normally I read between 4 and 7, and I did read 7 this month, leaving 3 behind. So we'll go over the books that I didn't read, and I hope you don't mind this format. I had some footage that I recorded of me playing with my reading journal, and I thought I'd put it to use. Instead of just watching me on camera, you're gonna watch me journal today, so I hope you don't mind that. So let's get started. So the first book that I read in May was Eventide by Godman, which is a YA historical fiction / thriller. It is a bit of a ghost story taking place in Arkansas, and I really enjoyed it. I was way better than I thought it was going to be. The prompt that I had for this book was from my library card game, and I landed on a fiction space with the prompt debut novel. And I gave this book 4 stars. I really did enjoy it. I felt like every chapter we were getting just another little piece of the puzzle, and that pace carried really well throughout the book. So I really did enjoy it and would recommend it for a great summer reading book. If you want to put it on your summer reading list, I would highly recommend it. It's a bit of a ghost story in the deep south, in the heat, in Arkansas, so it really does fit a summer, tell a story around a campfire type vibe. And it is not a spicy book. There is 0% spice, so I would recommend it to my fellow anti-spice readers. The next book that I read, I rather listened to on audiobook, was A Mystery of Mysteries, The Death and Life of Edgar Allan Poe by Dawiziak. And I truly do not really recommend this book. It is a nonfiction biography. And my prompt for this book was a 5-star prediction for A Tales of Two Trails: The Battle. This was one of our prompts for the Pirates this month. I only gave this book 3 stars. I learned things about Edgar Allan Poe, but maybe in the most torturous way possible. The narrator for this audiobook just drolled on and on and on. And the audiobook was 11 hours, and I felt every minute of those 11 hours. I think I probably would have been better off listening to a 1-hour podcast. So if you'd like Edgar Allan Poe, if you're curious about his life, you could do worse, I guess, than, reading or listening to this book, but maybe the physical book of this version would be better than the audiobook I listened to. The next book that I read in May was The Other Side of the Mirror by Dana Evyn. This is a romantasy, dual POV, spicy book. And this was actually my very first ARC that I ever got from NetGalley, so special thank you to NetGalley and City Owl Press for providing me this copy, this ebook. Sadly, I did not get on with this book. I did not care for it. It is not my kind of book. I'm not a spicy reader, but I gave it only 2 stars. I don't know. It was just so cringe for me, but I think if you like spicy books, if you like the romantasy genre, maybe you would like this one. It does have magic and castles and princes and fairies, or fae people rather. So maybe you might like this one better than I did. I just really think this book wasn't for me, but could be for the romantasy people out there. And the next book that I read in May was The Princess Bride by William Goldman, of course, a beloved adventure fantasy romance. And my prompt for this one was an adventure book. I landed on the adventure space on my library card game and paired it up with the TV movie adaptation, because let's be honest, it's the best movie of all time, and I will hear no argument on that ever. And the book was equally as loving and amazing. The only thing, there was a little bit of difference with, in the movie you have the grandpa reading to the sick kid, which is kind of how it happens in the book, but the kid that's being read to is William Goldman, the author of the book. So it was kind of like a meta outside of the book, if that makes any kind of sense. But I did enjoy it, and I gave it 4.5 stars just because the parts of the story that were not like the Princess Bride story were not my favorite. There was quite a bit of fat phobia in this book also, so I could not give it 5 stars. But I would 1,010% recommend this book to literally anyone and everyone, for any lovers, adventurers, and sword fighters. If you want to read any of that, this book is 1,010% for you. Great summer book also. It's just really a fun read. So I would recommend this book to literally anyone and everyone. The next book I read in May was my Buzzwordathon book, and our prompt this month was the word every. And I read Every Rising Sun by Jamila Ahmed. And this is something of a retelling, reimagining of 1001 Arabian Nights. It's also would be classified as like a historical fiction. And it was okay. I didn't love this book, but I didn't hate it either. I gave it 3 stars. I felt like the beginning was really good. Like, it started off with a bang. Then there was like a huge schlep in the middle of like 200 pages of walking through the desert. And then the last like 100 pages of the book were really good and really interesting also. So I did enjoy it. I would recommend it to like people looking for a retelling, not necessarily a historical fiction, but if you like a good retelling story, I think you would enjoy this one. I don't hate it. The more I think about it, the more I don't hate it. And when I was really telling one of my friends like about this book and how it ended and everything, she was really into the story of the story. So I do recommend Every Rising Sun, and it is written by a Pakistani-American author, so add a little bit of diversity to your TBR, this would be a good pick. One thing that I did find complicated about Every Rising Sun is that there is a lot of Arabic vocabulary and Islamic history that I wasn't familiar with that had me stopping and Googling along the way. So just be prepared for that if you do read this book, that you're going to need to brush up on some Arabic phrases, some Islamic phrases, and some Islamic ancient history. The next book I read in May was The Turn of the Screw by Henry James. This is a classic suspense gothic horror novel, and it was the group book for the Tales of Two Trails the Battle game this month. A lot of us ended up reading this book. Our prompt was random genre generator, and it generated the genre of horror, and this is the book Julie, our team leader, selected for us. And the story is good. The way it is written is wordy and over-convoluted and not fun. So I would actually rather recommend watching the movie on this one. The Innocents from, I think it's 1961, was very, very good. I watched it after reading it, and I absolutely loved the movie. The book I gave 2.5 stars. I just could not with the way that this book was written. It was overly complicated for no reason. But the suspense, the ghost story, that was all really great, and I really enjoyed that as far as the book going, as far as the book goes. But overall, the reading experience of this book was pretty unsatisfying. I was very empty feeling by the time I finished this book, so I would probably skip this book if I were you and rather watch the movie The Innocents. Because the story is good, just the writing is no. So watch the movie on this one. I know that's blasphemy, but it is the honest opinion that I have. The next book that I read was How to Stop Time by Matt Haig, and this was another prompt from A Tale of Two Trails the Battle. Our prompt was Kim's TBR. We had to steal a book off of Kim's TBR of what she was reading, and thankfully I did have this one on my physical TBR. It is a historical time travel romance. It's really an interesting premise, and I actually really did enjoy the book up until the end. I did not love the ending, so I'm like 70-30 on this book, more good than bad. And I actually thought it was quite funny. There were quite a few points in the book where I was just really giggling to myself, and I thought Grace's character was really funny and adorable while she was young. I thought she was really cute. And also this book, is not spicy, so this is another one that has no spice that I could recommend to my anti-spice readers and anybody looking for just a little touch of magic in something of a historical fiction, literary fiction type book. So I think the good really did outweigh the bad with this one, and on Kim's TBR, this was something of a second chance author for her, and I really liked it. I would read more books from Matt Haig, though he seems to be hit and miss with a lot of people. And I was reading through some reviews about this book, and a lot of people didn't like that he kept meeting some like historical figures throughout his very long life, and I really didn't mind it. I actually thought it added to the story rather than subtracting from the story, so I really did not mind that, for instance, he met Shakespeare. I thought that was great. So I would recommend this book, How to Stop Time by Matt Haig. And I started one other book but haven't finished it yet. That is The Invisible Man by H.G. Wells, which is a sci-fi suspense classic book. I'm listening to this on audiobook, but I haven't finished it yet, so I'm going to be including it in my June wrap-up instead. The 3 books that I did not finish this month, that I just didn't get to, were Lasher by Anne Rice, Curious Toys by Elizabeth Hand, and Kiss Myself Goodbye by Ferdinand Mount. These were all books off of my library card game TBR. So I will push all 3 of these into my June TBR along with several other books that I plan on to read. And let's get into, I didn't think I was going to have time in this video to do it, but I do. So let's do my June TBR. Okay, let's get into my June TBR. And in addition to Lasher, Curious Toys, and Kiss Myself Goodbye, which will all be rolling over into June from my library card TBR, I am also going to be doing my Buzzword-a-thon book, and this month's prompt are repeating words. And for this, I will be reading In a Dark, Dark Wood by Ruth Ware. And this is a mystery thriller kind of book, and it is about a woman named Leonora. And when reclusive writer Leonora is invited to the English countryside for a weekend away, she reluctantly agrees to make the trip. But as the first night falls, revelations unfold among friends, old and new. An unnerving memory shatters Leonora's reserve, and a haunting realization creeps in. The party is not alone in the woods. So this sounds like a really good, by the campfire type story for me. I love this kind of story in the summer, not just like beachy reads. So I'm really looking forward to this one. I've never read a book by this author, Ruth Ware, but I see a lot of other people reading her books, so I'm stoked to be reading this one. For my Tale from Two Trails of Battle TBR, we have 3 prompts. And 2 of our prompts are actually the same prompt, a book featuring water, so I'll be reading 2 of those. And the first book is our group book selected by Julie, the Pirates team captain, and that book is The Ocean at the End of the Lane by Neil Gaiman. I've actually never read anything by Neil Gaiman, but The Sandman has been on my TBR for maybe 8 years. So I am excited to read at least something from this author. And The Ocean at the End of the Lane is something of a magical realism type of story about a middle-aged man returns to his childhood home to attend a funeral. Although the house he lived in is long gone, he is drawn to the farm at the end of the road, where when he was 7, he encountered a most remarkable girl, Letty Hempstock, and her mother and grandmother. He hasn't thought of Letty in decades, and yet as he sits by the pond, a pond that she claimed was an ocean, behind the ramshackle old farmhouse, the unremembered past comes flooding back, and it is a past too strange, too frightening, too dangerous to have happened to anyone, let alone a small boy. So this sounds super interesting. It is a rather short book, and like I said, I'm really excited to read literally anything by Neil Gaiman. He is such a popular author that I need to get something by this person into my brain. The other water prompt that I'll be doing, or the other book I'll be reading for another water prompt, will be Genderqueer by Maia Kobabe. And this is a graphic novel LGBTQIA+ book. I thought that would be a good thing to throw in this month for Pride Month, and it does have water on the cover. And the real reason I wanted to read this was I was having a conversation with a conservative friend of mine at work, and, they were asking me about book bans and, what's the most contested book, and it is Genderqueer right now, and why. And honestly, I didn't have an answer because I've never read it, so that is the real reason I'm reading this, though it does fit my prompt. And it is about Maia's intensely cathartic autobiography charts their journey of self-identity, which includes the mortification and confusion of adolescent crushes, grappling with how to come out to family and society, bonding with friends over gay erotic fan fiction, and facing the trauma of pap smears. Started as a way to explain to our family what it means to be non-binary and asexual. Genderqueer is more than a personal story. It is a useful and touching guide on gender identity, what it means, and how to think about it, for advocates, friends, and humans everywhere. So this is a rather quick book. I should get through it quickly. I'm waiting for it from the Libby app. I'm borrowing it from the library, and then I'll be able to get started on this one. And the final prompt we had for The Tale of Two Trails was a second chance author, but I really didn't have anything to fit that prompt, so I stole a prompt from the other team, and that is to read a thriller. And I'm going to slide in Curious Toys by Elizabeth Hand off of my carryover library card TBR to fill this spot. And the last book I have on my June TBR is an ARC copy, and that is The Shadow Key by Susan Stokes-Chapman. So thank you to NetGalley and HarperCollins Publishing for sending me an ebook copy. And this is a historical fiction gothic mystery. And it's set in 1783. Henry Talbot has been dismissed from his post at a prestigious London hospital. The only job he can find is as a physician in the backwaters of Wales, where he can't speak the language. Belief in myth and magic is rife, and the villagers treat him with bewildering suspicion. When Henry discovers his predecessor died under mysterious circumstances, he is determined to find answers. So that sounds like a good summer mystery fun story. I've not read the other book by Susan Stokes-Chapman. Pandora was a popular book for a while there, and I've not read it. So this will be the first book from this author that I've read. But super stoked to have gotten another NetGalley book. I will be doing a full spoilers and all review of this book in the near future. So keep an eye out for that as well. And that'll wrap it up for all the books I look to read in June. There's a total of 7, but a few of them are quite short, graphic novel type books, or just short books in general. So I should be able to push through this TBR with no problem. And then hopefully once I finish these books that are left over from library card, I'll be able to play another round here in the near future. And so keep an eye out for that as well. Go Pirates. I'm really stoked that the Tale of Two Trails team, the Pirates team, Julie's team, we absolutely smashed the Elephants this month. We beat them by 50 points, and I hope we do something similar again this upcoming month. So if you're a pirate, send me some flags and love in comments, and I will hope you all have a great reading month. Take care. Bye.